Have you ever noticed how quickly respect can slip away in a conversation? Maybe you were talking to someone and they suddenly made a comment that rubbed you the wrong way. Or maybe you found yourself backing away from a person, not because of anything they said to you, but because you could just sense they didn't respect themselves. It's a strange thing, isn't it? Respect can take years to build and just moments to lose. And especially as we get older, we start to value that kind of deep, genuine respect more than ever. You might be in your 60s, 70s, or even beyond, and you know a thing or two about life. You've loved, you've lost, you've worked hard, maybe raised a family, maybe helped friends through tough times. You've earned your stripes. But still, there are moments when you can feel overlooked, dismissed, talked over, and it makes you wonder, what does it actually take to get people to respect you instantly? That's what we're talking about today. Not in a pushy, demanding way, but in a way that reflects your wisdom, your value, and your strength. Because earning respect isn't about being loud or bossy. It's about how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how you show others that you respect yourself first. Let's begin by talking about one of the most overlooked truths: when and why we lose respect for others and even for ourselves. See, losing respect isn't always about someone doing something big or dramatic. Often it's the subtle things. It's the quiet ways someone speaks poorly about themselves, or how they constantly apologize for simply existing. It's the slumped shoulders, the eyes that don't meet yours, or the way they seem to shrink in every conversation. Sometimes we lose respect for others because they're too eager to please. They agree with everything. They laugh when nothing's funny. They say yes when they want to say no. And while we may feel sympathy for them deep down, we stop seeing them as someone we admire. Why? Because when someone doesn't respect themselves, it sends a message. I don't believe I deserve better. And if they don't believe that, it's hard for others to believe it for them. But what about the other side of the coin? What about when someone says something rude or hurtful? That's a faster road to losing respect. When someone chooses to wound instead of listen, when they pick judgment over understanding, that's when our respect tends to vanish immediately. Especially if the comment is sharp, unnecessary, or meant to embarrass. It's hard to come back from that. Still, not every moment of disrespect deserves a reaction. One of the most powerful things you can do is simply choose not to match someone's ugliness. You don't have to respond to everything. Sometimes, the most respectable thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact. That right there earns you more admiration than any comeback ever could. Now let's talk about how you speak, because your words matter, more than you think. And no, I don't mean using fancy vocabulary or trying to sound like a college professor. I mean the way you carry a conversation. The tone, the rhythm, the pauses. These little details have the power to either draw people in or push them away. Have you ever caught yourself saying, like, or, a lot when you talk? Or maybe you start every question with, sorry to bother you, even when you're not bothering anyone at all. These may seem harmless, but over time, they chip away at how confident you sound. And that affects how much people listen or don't. Now let me be clear. Everyone says these filler words sometimes. I do too. We all do. But when you're in a moment where you want to be taken seriously, whether you're talking to your doctor, asking a question at church, or even standing up for yourself with your grown children, those little ums and likes can make you seem unsure, even when you're not. So what can you do instead? You pause, you breathe, you give yourself space to think. And when you pause, instead of filling the silence with noise, something powerful happens. People lean in. They listen. You sound more thoughtful, more grounded, more confident. Imagine you're asking someone a serious question, maybe about money, health, or a sensitive situation. Instead of saying, I was just wondering, Maybe if you could possibly try something different. Try this. I'd like to talk to you about something that matters to me. When would be a good time? That's it. No apology, no filler. Just calm, clear intent. The truth is, people respect clarity. And they respect those who value their own voice, enough to use it with purpose. That doesn't mean being harsh or cold. It means being direct, kind, but firm. Think about this. When you say, "I hate to bother you," you're telling the other person that what you're about to say is a bother. When you say, "This might sound dumb," but you're telling them not to take you seriously. And when you fill every silence with words, you don't give your message a chance to breathe. The next time you're in a conversation where you want to sound confident, try saying less. Let your words be measured. Let your tone be steady. Let your presence speak just as loudly as your voice. And it's not just about words, it's about presence. People pick up on things like posture, eye contact, and how you enter a room. You don't have to be tall, loud, or flashy. You just have to own your space. Walk with your shoulders back, make eye contact, and speak from the chest, not the throat. You've got wisdom to share. Experience, stories, lessons learned. Don't let self-doubt or outdated habits water down your voice. You don't need to speak faster to be heard. You don't need to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. And here's a little secret. The most powerful people in the room are usually the ones who speak the least. Why? Because they don't feel the need to prove themselves. Their confidence doesn't come from showing off. It comes from knowing who they are. And when you know who you are, people feel it. So whether you're having a heart-to-heart with a friend, speaking up in a group, or simply expressing a need, you can speak with strength. You can speak with clarity. You can speak in a way that makes people stop and respect what you have to say. And if that sounds like something you want to get better at, you absolutely can. It's never too late to change how you carry yourself. Every conversation is a chance to practice. Every interaction is a new opportunity to step more fully into your value. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to memorize fancy phrases or change your personality. You just need to trust that your voice matters, that your presence matters, and that the respect you're looking for often begins with how you choose to see yourself. It's a powerful feeling when you start carrying yourself differently. Not because you're pretending to be someone else, but because you're finally showing up as the person you've always been. That's what real confidence looks like. And here's the beautiful part. Confidence doesn't come from your age, your status, or how many people know your name. It comes from within. So how do you show confidence and self-worth, especially in a world that often tries to dim your light as you get older? Let me say this clearly. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. True confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need to brag. It doesn't shove others aside to be seen. It simply is. And the people who radiate that kind of quiet strength, they're the ones we remember. They're the ones we respect. Start with the way you talk to yourself. Most people go through life criticizing themselves more than anyone else ever could. I'm too old for that. I probably sound silly. They don't care what I think. Sound familiar? But if you wouldn't say it to a friend you love, why say it to yourself? What you say silently matters just as much as what you say out loud. That little voice in your head, your self-talk, is shaping how you carry yourself every single day. So the next time you catch yourself talking down to yourself, pause. Replace it with something stronger, something kinder. Try, "I deserve to be heard." Or, "I've lived a life full of lessons, and that gives me value." You've earned the right to be here, to take up space, to be respected. And part of showing self-worth is how you handle moments when people test that. Not everyone will treat you with the kindness you deserve. You might be interrupted, ignored, even dismissed, especially if you're older. That's the unfortunate truth. But you don't have to let those moments define you. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. One of the most powerful ways to show self-respect isn't by fighting to be heard. It's by choosing not to chase approval. When someone cuts you off in conversation or tries to talk over you, don't shrink. Don't laugh it off to avoid discomfort. And you don't have to argue either. Sometimes, the most dignified response is to pause, look them in the eye and say, "I'll wait until you're ready to listen." That one sentence, spoken calmly and clearly, will earn more respect than any argument ever could. You don't need to raise your voice. You just need to raise your energy. And the way you do that is by believing deep down that you matter. That what you bring to the table has value, whether you're sitting with a friend, a family member, or a total stranger. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. As important as confidence is, it needs a partner: humility. You see, too much confidence with no humility starts to look like arrogance. And while people may respect your power, they won't feel safe around you. On the other hand, too much humility with no confidence becomes weakness, and people may feel sympathy, but not admiration. So how do you find the balance between the two? It starts with knowing your worth without needing to show it off. You don't need to remind people of your accomplishments or talk about what you've done in the past just to be taken seriously. You simply need to show up with integrity and let your actions speak for you. Think of someone you deeply respect. Maybe it's a pastor, a grandparent, a teacher you had years ago. Chances are they weren't the loudest person in the room. They probably didn't go around telling everyone how wise they were. But when they spoke, people listened. Why? Because they led with humility and quiet strength. They knew who they were, but they didn't need to rub it in anyone's face. You can do the same. Humility shows up in how you listen. It shows up in the way you ask questions. Not to catch someone in a mistake, but to understand them better. It's being curious instead of controlling. It's letting someone else have the spotlight without feeling like you've lost your own. But humility doesn't mean you downplay yourself. There's this idea, especially among older generations, that you should stay modest to the point of being invisible. That if you're not making noise, you're doing it right. And while humility is a virtue, invisibility is not. You can be humble and still be seen. Still be heard, still be valued. It's not about saying, "I'm better than others." It's about saying, "I'm no better than you, but I am worthy too." That's the sweet spot. That's the energy that makes people feel comfortable around you, but also makes them take notice. You don't have to overcompensate or underplay. You just have to be real. Authenticity is the golden thread that ties confidence and humility together. When you're being genuine, when the person you are on the inside matches, the person you're showing to the world, that's when people begin to respect you naturally. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel fake. It just feels right. Now here's something that happens often, especially as we age. We begin to feel like we're too much or not enough. Too bold, too quiet, too soft, too serious. And we try to adjust to please others. We shrink in conversations. We hold back our opinions. We start to doubt our gut instincts. But the truth is, people respect someone who's comfortable being themselves, even if they don't agree with you, even if your views are different. What earns respect isn't always the content of what you say. It's the clarity and calm with which you say it. So, don't rush to fill the silence with nervous chatter. Don't apologize for every small thing. Don't minimize your own stories because you think others have more important things to say. If something matters to you, let it matter. If something hurt you, name it. If something brings you joy, share it. Confidence and humility are not opposites. They're partners. One shows your strength. The other shows your heart. And together, they create a presence that is deeply human and deeply respected. The goal is not to impress people. It's to express who you truly are, clearly, calmly, and without apology. You've lived enough life to know this. Respect that's demanded rarely lasts, but respect that's earned through kindness, consistency, and quiet confidence can shape relationships in powerful, lasting ways. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating things in any relationship: when someone doesn't respond to you. Maybe it's a friend who stops calling, a child who leaves your message on read, or a person who suddenly turns cold after a disagreement. It stings. And no matter how old or wise we get, that silence can still feel like rejection. You might be sitting there thinking, did I say something wrong? Did I overstep? Should I follow up or just let it go? Those questions are natural. We've all asked them. And especially as we get older, we tend to value peace more than conflict. We don't want to stir the pot, but at the same time, we don't want to be ignored either. So, what do you do when someone doesn't respond? First, remember this: their silence isn't always about you. People avoid difficult conversations for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they feel guilty. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they don't have the emotional tools to face the situation maturely. But whatever the reason, you are not responsible for their silence. You're only responsible for how you choose to respond to it. And here's the key: you don't have to chase anyone for their attention. Let me say that again. You do not have to chase anyone to make them respect you. If someone is avoiding a conversation that matters to you, you can reach out, once, maybe twice, with grace and clarity. You might say something like, "I'd like to talk about what happened the other day. I care about our relationship and I want to understand." That's enough. If they choose not to respond, they've made their choice. You don't need to keep knocking on a closed door. Because the truth is, when someone values you, they won't leave you hanging. When someone respects you, they won't ignore you and expect you to keep trying. And if they do, that's a signal. Not for you to try harder, but to hold your head higher. It's hard, I know, especially when it's someone you care deeply about. A family member, a lifelong friend. It hurts. But here's the shift that can set you free. Silence tells you something. It tells you what kind of relationship you really had, or what kind of relationship the other person was willing to have with you. And that knowledge, that's a gift. Even if it hurts at first, it frees you from wasting energy on people who don't see your worth. Now, this doesn't mean you give up on people too quickly. Relationships are messy, and everyone makes mistakes. But it does mean you pay attention to patterns. If someone regularly ignores your needs, avoids hard conversations, or makes you feel like you're the only one trying, that's not mutual respect, that's imbalance. Respect is a two-way street. It's not about keeping score, but it is about shared effort. If you're always the one reaching out, apologizing, explaining, trying, while they avoid, dismiss, or deflect, it might be time to step back. Not out of anger, not to punish them, but out of respect for yourself. Sometimes, stepping back is the most powerful thing you can do. It gives the other person space to realize what they're missing, and it gives you space to reconnect with your own strength. Because here's the thing. When someone doesn't respond, your mind can go into overdrive. You start imagining scenarios. You replay the last conversation. You blame yourself. But what if, instead of turning that energy inward, you turned it towards something that lifts you up? You can take that space and pour it into something that nourishes you. A walk outside, a call to a friend who always listens, writing your thoughts in a journal, volunteering, creating, moving forward. You don't need someone else's approval to keep growing. You don't need their response to feel whole. You have everything you need within you to live with dignity and peace, even when others don't show up the way you hoped they would. And if they do come around later, if they reach out again, You can decide how to respond based on the kind of person you want to be. You can forgive. You can have a conversation. Or you can move on respectfully if that's what your heart tells you. It's your life, your choice. Don't let someone's silence shrink your sense of worth. You are not less because someone else couldn't meet you where you are. You are not invisible because someone chose to look away. And you are not too much for having needs, expectations, or a desire for connection. You are worthy of respect, not for what you do, or how much you give, or how many people like you, but simply because you exist. So let's take a moment to bring this all together. You've learned that people lose respect for others when they sense a lack of self-respect, or when someone chooses to harm rather than heal. You've seen how powerful your words can be when you speak with clarity and confidence. You've discovered that real self-worth doesn't come from others. It comes from how you choose to show up for yourself. And you've explored the balance between being humble and being strong, knowing you don't have to dim your light to be kind. And now you know what to do when others don't respond. You stand tall, stay grounded, and keep your energy focused on what brings you peace, not what drains your spirit. You're not here to beg for respect. You're here to embody it. Respect starts with how you carry yourself in the quiet moments, in how you speak when no one else is talking, in how you hold boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable, in how you love yourself through uncertainty, and in how you honor the life you've lived and the life you're still creating. You've made it this far for a reason. You've overcome challenges, loved deeply, lost greatly, and kept going. That deserves respect. From others, but most importantly, from yourself. So the next time you walk into a room, speak your mind, or face a difficult silence, do it knowing this. You don't have to earn your worth. You are worthy. And when you carry that truth with you, respect tends to follow. If this message spoke to you today, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What's one thing you've learned about respect in your life? What helps you stay grounded when others let you down? And if you found value in this conversation, please like the video, subscribe to Strong Elderly Life, and share it with someone who might need this reminder too. You deserve to be respected. You deserve to feel powerful in your own voice. And you deserve to live with peace, confidence, and joy. Here's to living your best life at any age.